adventures, and welcome to another exciting episode of D&D Deep Dive, the show where we dive deep into classes, subclasses, and other features of 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons to help you get the most out of your choices. So, today, we're going to continue with where we stopped last week with the fighter new subclasses in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. Now, by new, both of these were in Unearthed Kakakana, and the one we're going to do today, I actually did a D&D deep dive on. However, this one has changed pretty massively. But because of the fact that they changed the basic idea of how the class works, specifically how the psionic die works, everything in the class is really different. Let's dive into the Psi Warrior. Now, if you remember, the kind of defining feature of these psionic subclasses in Unearthed Kakakana was this brand new psionic die system, where effectively what it was you got a single psionic die, and I think it started as a D4 or did a D6. I can't remember exactly. But what happened is anytime you'd use a psionic power, you would roll the die, and if you rolled the max number on the die, the die would shrink to the next lower size. So if it was a D6 and you rolled a 6 on it, it would turn into a D4. And when it got to a D4, if you rolled a 4, the die disappeared and you no longer could do any psionic abilities until you took a long rest. If you rolled a 1 on your psionic die roll, it would grow to the next size, up to whatever your maximum size was, if I remember correctly. And it eventually would get up to a D12. I mentioned in that video that because of just the random nature of it, I wasn't sure how broken that was, because the reason you have a die and they're not just any abilities you can do whenever is it's supposed to be a limiting factor, but they wanted it to be kind of interesting and unique. That's all gone with the Psi Warrior. They chose a slightly more traditional idea for how your psionic powers work, making this class play very similarly to the Battle Master, as far as they have a pool of dice that they can use to use their abilities. And generally, if you roll the die for some sort of an attack, you're going to add the die to the damage of the attack. So let's dive into the actual class features of this new one. So at the third level, you get what's called Psionic Power. And this is another one where you only get one ability at the third level, but there's a lot to it. Effectively, you now have a psionic energy dice pool, which they start out as D6s, and as you gain levels, they get bigger. 5th level is D8, 11 is D10, 17th level is D12. The number of dice is equal to twice your proficiency bonus. So when you start this class at level, or subclass at level 3, you will have four dice at your disposal, and by the time you get to 17th, you will have a total of 12 at your disposal. If you use them all up, you can't use any more psionic powers until you take a long rest. If you want as a bonus action, you can regain one expended psionic energy die. But you can only do that once per short or long rest. Now, the interesting thing there, in the old version of the class, you had to no longer have your psionic energy die in order to use that. In this, just if you want an extra psionic energy die, you can use your bonus action to get it. So that does mean if your party takes a short rest, it is in your best interest to always, before you take the short rest, regain a psionic energy die, because after the short rest is over, you regain that ability to get a bonus. So that's something that you really want to make sure you're doing. Mostly because of this class, you really should be using your psionic abilities fairly regularly. Like as far as like limited resources go, the fact that you start at level 3 with 4 uses of these abilities is pretty good. And they just get better and better and better as you go along, and you get more. So yeah. With the fact that they've described how the energy dice work, they give you 3 abilities you can use with it. The first one's called Protective Field. Basically, when you or another creature you can see within the 30 feet takes damage, you can use your reaction to expend a psionic energy die, roll it, and then reduce the damage taken by the number plus your intelligence modifier. So this is a combo, either strength or dex, depending on which kind of a fighter you are, and intelligence class. So this is very much a mad multiple attribute dependent class. Protective Field is exactly what it sounds like, and it's exactly as useful as it sounds. With the fact that you, by the time you get to the 17th level, you have a D12 plus, more likely than not, a +5 to your intelligence modifier. The ability to block up to 17 points of damage is not nothing. Obviously, by the time you're that level, enemies are going to be doing a lot more damage in single hits. However, a lot of times, at least with like melee creatures, the reason they're able to do that much damage is they will have multi-attacks that let them attack 3 or 4 times. So individually, they're still only doing, around, 15 to 20 damage. They just can do it 3 or 4 or 5 times. So in that particular instance, Protective Field is going to be really useful the entire time you're using the class, and not just from the idea of, well, every hit point counts. Not, even if you're only getting, to 10 hit points blocked, that's still pretty decent. The next ability you get is Psionic Strike. Basically, immediately after you hit a target within the 30 feet of you with an attack and deal damage to it with a weapon, you can burn a psionic energy die and deal force damage equal to the number rolled plus your intelligence modifier. So this is basically a smite. Effectively, you roll You do a hit, you do damage, you add a little extra damage. Now, because it says immediately after you deal the damage to it, I think my reading of this would be, unlike Smite, where you just add the damage, and that means if you could crit, you can double the damage you smite with. This happens after all the attack is over, so this would not benefit from crit damage, but it's still extra damage. You're limited to once on each of your turns, which you've talked about that phrasing. It means once per round, effectively, because even if you get to use your reaction to attack, you won't be able to use this again. So that is a little more limited than I'm like. I'm generally not a huge fan of the idea of once on each of your turns, simply because it takes out some of the tactical decisions your party could make. When I don't think it really needs to. Again, one of the most broken abilities, or almost broken abilities in the game, is the rogue's sneak attack. Specifically because it's just once per turn, not once on your turn. So the rogue can, as long as it can attack on another character's turn, either through an opportunity attack, a battle master gifting an attack to it, it can do that sneak attack damage again. And there's a few other abilities like that give you kind of some benefit outside of your turn. Also, when we think about kind of the core features of a fighter, one of the defining features is they get more attacks than anyone else. So Psionic Strike actively works against that idea, because it limits it to only one attack per turn can get the extra damage. I think the fact that it's already limited by your psionic energy dice pool, I don't think it really needs to be once on each of your turns. If you want to burn through all your psionic energy dice in 2 or 3 turns, I don't see that as a massively bad thing, especially since it's remarkably difficult to get more of them. You basically have to take a long rest. Yeah, that's my only issue with Psionic Strike here. There are other things that happen later on that are useful for it. And then the final thing you get at the 3rd level with this ability is called the Telekinetic Movement. Which is, as an action, you target a loose object that is large or smaller, or one willing creature other than yourself. You need to be able to see it. It's got to be within the 30 feet of you. But if those are true, you can move it up to the 30 feet to an unoccupied space you can see. Alternatively, if it's a tiny object, you can move it to or from your hand. Either way, you can move the target horizontally, vertically, or both. And then once you take that action, you can't do so again until you either finish a short or long rest, or you expend a psionic energy to die. So this is one of those the things where they give you one use for free, and then every additional use you have to burn a resource. In this particular case, that's the psionic energy to die. And the fact that you can move them vertically means you can use this to start getting fall damage against creatures. Now, falling from the 30 feet is only 3d6 fall damage. But it is technically unblockable damage, in the idea that you don't have to worry about them having a high AC or anything like that. They just take the damage. And depending on how your DM rules it, it might also knock them prone. So there are some advantages to using this ability, especially since there's no save for them. So unlike most abilities that allow you to move enemies, this, it just happens. The only kind of caveat to that is it has to be a willing creature. but a combination of a charm spell does mean that you could pretty easily get a creature who would normally be unwilling to become willing very quickly. So yeah, it's an interesting thing. The other nice thing is you can target an object that is large or smaller, but it doesn't define a weight. So as much as lifting a creature into dropping them only works if you can somehow get them to agree to be lifted and dropped. But if you want to take a really big statue, something that's large so it fits in a 10-foot cube, and drop it on someone, that's perfectly fine. So yeah, very much kind of a control style thing. My only real issue with it being, I think if there was some way that you could use a non-willing creature, I think it could have a little bit more uses, just from being able to do it as a more tactical combat focused thing. But other than that, it's interesting. It gives you a cool way to use your psionic energy to die. So level 3, that's all you can use your 4 die for. At the 7th level, you get what's called Telekinetic Adept, which gives you new ways to burn your psionic energy die. You get Psi-Powered Leap, which as a bonus action, you gain a flying speed equal to twice your walking speed until the end of the current turn. And then once you take the bonus action, you can't do so again until you finish a short or long rest or use a psionic energy die. And the other one is Telekinetic Thrust, which is whenever you damage a target with Psionic Strike, you can force the target to make a strength save, which is the DC is 8 plus proficiency plus intelligence modifier. And if they fail, you can either knock them prone or move them to 10 feet in any direction horizontally. So Psi-Powered Leap, you get a fly speed. You actually get a good fly speed because it's double your walking speed. So very easily you can use Psi-Powered Leap to cross really large distances, to get around enemies that are trying to block one of the more squishy characters, to get out of danger when you need it. You don't have the ability to hover, so the idea of an archer or something raining down damage is just not possible. But I mean, fly speed is always just useful, even the extremely limited amount of time you have it here. I totally see this as like Ronin Warrior style, like jumping across the walls, or like Jedi, just jumping into the air and doing a massive flip and stuff. So that's really cool. Telekinetic Thrust definitely turns your Psionic Strike into something significantly more useful. Up until this point, it's just extra damage, which is nice, especially at low levels. The amount of extra damage you can do is going to be similar to the amount of damage you do with a single attack. But the ability to also knock a target prone or move them makes it a significantly more useful ability. And gives it some legs to stand on even at high levels. Because knocking a target prone, whether you're level 2 or level 20, is still a useful ability. Especially for a fighter, if you are a melee fighter, being able to knock them prone effectively gives you advantage on every single attack roll until they stand up. And it also means if they attempt to make an opportunity attack, while they're prone, they'll have to make it with a disadvantage. So very, very useful. To the 10th level, you get what's called Guarded Mind, which is basically you have resistance to psychic damage, and if you start your turn either to Charmed or for Frightened, you can burn a psionic energy die and end every effect on yourself subjecting you to those conditions. So anything that's causing you to be charmed, frightened, or both, you can just decide, you know what, I'm not just charmed or frightened. And the nice thing about this is it happens at the beginning of your turn, and not the end. The monk has a high level of ability that allows them, I think it's either to use their action, or at the end of their turn to just end a charmed condition on themselves. They just get to do that. But it effectively uses their entire turn to do it. This doesn't take anything. You just get to go, I don't want to be charmed anymore. Or I don't want to be frightened anymore. Both of those conditions can cause serious issues, especially since a lot of monsters that have abilities that charm don't just infect you with the charmed condition. They will charm you and control you, or they will charm you and put you to sleep, or something like that. So the ability to just end it is really useful. 15th level, you get Bulwark of Force. And this one is really, really cool. As a bonus action, you can choose creatures, which it can include you, that you can see within the 30 feet of you, up to a number of creatures equal to your intelligence modifier. And each of the chosen creatures is protected by half cover for 1 minute or until you're incapacitated. And again, once you use it, you need a short rest or burn it to die to use it again. We've talked about half into the three-quarter cover before, but as a quick refresher, half cover gives you a +2 to your AC. 3/4 gives you a +5. So this effectively means you can give your entire party +2 AC for a minute, which, due to the fact that a round of combat takes 6 seconds, that is 10 rounds of combat. Most combat never gets close to 10 rounds. So this is effectively, by burning a single die, you give your entire team, or at least 5 members of your team, which is pretty average for a D&D party, an extra 2 AC. Just because. Clerics can do something similar to that by using Armor of Faith, but it's a single target ability and it requires concentration. There's no concentration here. This is just extra AC, which is really, really good. So as a 15th level of ability, it is definitely one that I see Psy Warriors using every single turn. The final thing you get is at 18th level, you get Telekinetic Master, which is you can cast the telekinesis spell using no components. The spellcasting ability for it is intelligence. And on each of your turns, while you could concentrate on the spell, because it is a concentration, including the turn when you could cast it, you can make one attack with a weapon as a bonus action. And the same thing, you need a short or long rest to, or this one, you actually need a long rest. It doesn't work on a short rest, or use this as a psionic energy to die. So the interesting thing about this is actually what the telekinesis spell does. It lasts for 10 minutes. And when you cast the spell and then as an action each round for the duration, you can do a bunch of different things. You can try and move a huge or smaller creature. You make a contested check where you roll with you basically roll an intelligence-based check versus theirs is a strength check, and if you win, you can move them 30 feet in any direction, including up, but not farther than 60 feet away from you, because that's the range of this as a spell. And until the end of your next turn, the creature is restrained in your telekinetic grip. So a restrained creature has a speed of 0. Um, Everything that it attacks it has advantages. The creature's attacks have disadvantage, and it has disadvantage on dex saves. So really useful to be able to restrain a target, and you can lift it in the air, which means when you stop concentrating, you can drop it. Or it can give the enemy an incentive to not hit you with attacks, because if you break concentration, whoever is suspended is going to call them to tumbling down. And this works on up to a huge or smaller creature, which is most of the monster manual. Yeah, like that's a pretty decent ability. The other thing is you can use it on objects. You can move an object that weighs up to 1,000 pounds. So this time it's not a size limit, it's a weight limit. And if the object is being worn or carried by a creature, you can make an ability check contested by their strength to basically steal it off them and then move it to 30 feet. And you can also use fine control. So like using a simple tool, opening a door or container, stowing or retrieving an item from an open container, pouring the contents from a vial, like a potion, all those things you can do with telekinesis. So your 18th level ability is not only can you do telekinesis, which is a really nice 5th level spell, but you still get to make your attacks. Now you only get one attack as a bonus action, but that's still pretty useful. And then you can add on, your psionic strike if you want more damage, or to knock them prone or anything. Like this really turns the Psi Warrior into a very competent kind of controller style character. The telekinesis spell, again, lasts for a full 10 minutes. So when you're done with one creature, you can move on to the next, and then the next, and then the next, and just keep going. All while making your attacks when you need to, and then dropping people every so often, pushing them into holes. Lots of different things. So, final thoughts on the Psionites. Overall, I like it. I think the old version of it was a little bit broken. The die system was a little bit confusing. It seemed kind of weird that rolling low made the die get better and rolling high made it get worse. And it just seemed way too easy to abuse that die system, because if you were getting good rolls, you could be using your psionic abilities constantly, whereas if you were getting bad rolls like I do, you would never be able to use your abilities, because you would always be just screwing yourself over repeatedly. So I like the dice pool better. I like classes that have a dice pool. In the early version of 5th edition, back when it was the D&D Next, they actually had dice pools for proficiencies and stuff like that. Instead of adding a flat modifier, you would add an extra D6 or D8, and I really liked that idea. They didn't go forward with it because it could cause other issues, but I do like the idea of a class that has their own dice pool that they can use for things. I like the fact that, unlike a monk, where your key pool is just lines or circles on your character sheet, having physical things that you get to go, I'm using this die, I'm using this die. It's just, I think it's fun to play. The abilities you can use this as a psionics, I think, are good. Like I said, my one issue, psionic strike, I really don't think it should be limited to once on each of your turns. Bare minimum, I think it should be once per turn. And I don't think it should be once anything. I think it should be anytime you hit, you should be able to do a psionic strike because you're already limited by your dice pool. But that's the only real issue I have with any thing in here. The telekinetic movement, again, I think it would be cool if there was something you could do to move unwilling creatures, but because of the 18th level telekinesis spell you get access to, that kind of gives you that ability. You don't get it until 18th level, but it does, I can see why they wouldn't want unwilling creatures if they were going to give you to the telekinesis later on. It makes sense. So yeah, overall, I like it. I don't think it's quite as useful as some of the other classes or subclasses for fighter. But if you really kind of go to town with this and you really kind of build your character around the psionic abilities, you could have a very interesting character. This could very easily be used to create a fantasy Jedi, basically, because you have almost every use of the Force in here. The only thing you don't have is a Jedi mind trick. And if you really want to build a Jedi, you could take a feat, because fighters get more feats than anyone else. You could easily take a feat to get Magic Initiate and get the Friends cantrip to kind of give you a Jedi mind trick. But other than that, this is a D&D Jedi. Like it's totally built around that. Anyway, that is all for me today. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button. Hit it twice. Hit it 3 times. Hit it an odd number of times, because every time you hit it an even number, you like, and then you take the like off. So just however many times you do it, make sure it's an odd number so that it actually gets a like. It lets me know you like this. It lets Google know you like this. And if they see enough people liking it, they will let other people see it, so they may possibly like it. Also, smash that subscribe button. I'm putting out a lot of content. Last week, I think I put out 9 videos because of the Daily December and Mastering Astral Projection. It was nuts. I need help. But yeah, hit this as a subscribe button so all of the videos I put out go right to your subscription box, and hit the notification bell so that when I do post at weird, bizarre hours, as I am prone to do, you don't have to worry about missing anything I make. In the comments below, real simple question: how many people are going to make a Jedi? Just in the comments down below, go, I'm going to make a Jedi. Because I want to see how many Jedi or Sith, telekinesis could totally be a Force joke. I totally want to see how many Jedi and Sith are out there playing D&D. Anyway, that's all for me today, and I will see you guys next time, all right? Bye-bye!